So Kwok, the green Paifang.
I wander into Kia's Chinese restaurant and ask for a beef xiaofang. A man cuts pork chops into thin slices. The cashier points to a table. I grin. The cashier retreats behind the till and grips her apron to stop her trembling hands. She wails at the butcher, who stops his task and then hugs the crying cashier. Sometimes the whiskers on my snout, the wings poking the ceiling, and my yellow teeth can send the cashier into the back room. She can stop listening to European medieval stories. Those are so 1,000 years ago. Those human knights slaying some dragon bore me. Stories about dragons roaming the city pin my scales to the chair. I sit. Since the cashier trembles behind the cashier, the butcher approaches with my meal. The salt flirts with my nostrils. My claw twirls through the food and I toss it into my snout. I smile when the salty beef kisses my tongue. A reunion with Greg's morning mood and hot dogs at a baseball game.
Paifang is a story about a dragon named Sunny who's trying to woo a human with a story. It's a framed narrative, so the story within the story is about a ping pong tournament that Sunny takes part of. I was bored, so writing a story killed the time for me. It took me 8 years to get the story published, and I'm glad that I stuck with it. I feel like stories evolve from other stories, and this story might stem from a short story that I wrote during my BA. I don't have a copy of it since it is so bad, but I remember the characters' names, Trey and Trey. I think Trey with an A was the dragon. I bear read a lot of stories online, and one of the common problems that I see is that the conflict isn't consistent throughout the story. Sometimes the conflict isn't even there in the first place. It's important to have a conflict to keep the reader's interest. Whatever you do, don't give me a medieval setting. I feel as if that's been overdone, and even though there are readers that do like it, I would try to be more inventive. I feel as if a lot of my stories take place in urban settings, which is different. I'm sure there are many different settings that a story can take place. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty by James Thurber. I'm a fan of dark comedy, and this story makes me smile every time that I read it. Something that's more contemporary is Werewolf Loves Mermaid by Heather Linsley from Lightspeed magazine. That one is funny in its own way too. It's concise, and I feel entertained and engaged throughout the whole story. How werewolf and mermaid date each other is hilarious.